Welcome to the Tomosi Business Training Series. The basis of these sessions is to support the Tomosi Group staff and management to raise their capabilities and performance. This is also a platform to share our experience with young entrepreneurs making an effort to build their startups in Uganda and across Africa.
Hello, good morning. This is the second session of the presentation that we made in the last 2 weeks. This one is entitled Presentation, So You Are in the Room. The 3 steps we took in understanding the basics of presentation skills were meant to get us into the room. Now, to remind ourselves, these 3 steps were 1. Adequate preparation. 2. Sticking to one overriding theme so as to keep, our listeners' focus. And 3. The ability to tell stories that give your ideas some sort of lasting mental stake in your audience. These 3 tools we spoke about were really like if I got you to a house and handed you a bunch of keys without explaining which key opens which door. This is how I feel about those 3. You have the house, you have the bunch of keys. Well and good, but it will take you time to figure out which room is opened by which type of key and where the room is. So today, let us look at 4 more guides to a successful presentation. These guides are sort of like a guide to the bunch of the keys in your hands. Number 1, check the authority and influence you have in the room. Every presentation room is an expression of the decision-making process of an organization. Every presentation room we enter, now that we're there, expresses the decision-making process of that very organization that you are meeting. Some companies and institutions prefer to have in that room lower ranking officials to listen in to these presentations that have come from presenters who are seeking to provide solutions to the problems that have been advertised in bids or in some sort of way. This might be on account of sieving what is closer to what the company is looking for. But please be careful. The process of sieving, and I use that word carefully, sieving, that process too has authorities and decision makers involved. So you have to make your case with them as if you're making the case to the top leaders of the institution. Some institutions are led from the front by their leaders and managers, and they prefer getting the raw data to sieve out for themselves what might be helpful at an early stage. Now, both approaches to presentations, it seems to me, in this have authorities in the room. So in your pitch, please take time to own the room. Make eye contact with the room, especially with the authorities, to ensure they are listening to you and they understand you along the way as you make your pitch. I emphasize active listening. Actively listening, especially if they are making comments. Now, let me explain. Active listening is opening the aperture in your mind to walk in the shoes of the person asking the question. Its opposite is passive listening. Passive listening is where you open your mind instead to distractions, or you listen without intending to understand, but simply to answer back quickly. Active listening is beautiful because it has learning, understanding, empathy, all embedded in it, and it tends to give answers that have context. So don't rush through the presentation, even if the time given to you is short. My preference is that you would time yourself and ensure you do justice to each of the subsets of the points that you've chosen in your overriding theme. Remember, we work with priority principle, which we discussed last week. Even in that overriding theme, There are things that should be prioritized. Not all the subsets should be mentioned if you have limited time. Ensure you make appropriate pauses, meaning stopping a little in the pitch to drive your points home. Silence, sometimes I find that it wakes up people to the point you're making if it is very well timed. Remember, the authorities in the room have some other group called influencers. So you have authorities who make decisions. They are in your room, but they have also asked their influencers to be in. So there are decision makers and decision influencers in the organization. They are both present in the room. This is why in the last 2 weeks we spoke about advanced preparation, some research you got to do before the presentation is made. Watch for these influencers too. I find that good leaders tend to want to carry the room along with them in order to strike the necessary compromises so that when execution comes, it is easier because the decision has been owned by the majority of the people in the company who are in the room. Now, good leaders prefer consensus than imposition of decisions. Therefore, ensure that decision influencers, they are as important as the decision makers. Ensure that they are with you mentally and emotionally in the presentation room. If you are using presentational aids such as PowerPoint slides, videos, graphs, please make sure that these are for enhancing your presence in the room. I repeat this, they are for enhancing your presence in the room. They are supposed to make your points stronger and deeper. They are not for you to look on the screen and read. They are not meant for you to read. People are instead looking at you, your gestures, your tone, not the screen. If they aren't looking at you by any chance, and instead they are focused on the screen, or you see them fumbling with their cell phones, you are wasting their time. You would rather ask for a break if you can afford it. So that was our point number 1. What did I say? Point number 1, check the authorities and influencers who are in the room as you pitch. Number 2, check your credentials. Check your credentials in regard to the subject matter you speak of, especially the issue of related or similar experience in the past. You've got to check your credentials in that area. If, for example, you used stories in your introduction, remember stories in our last presentation? If you used them in the intro, these stories should relate to similar experiences you seek to bring to the client. Clients are not looking for your academic titles and the name dropping you want to do for the big clients you've served in the past. No. They want instead specific experience related to the job from the problem that you were presented with in the past by another company or another situation, the solution you gave, the kind of execution, the process and style of delivery, your delivery times, the lessons you learned, the impact you created for the company, whether it was about revenue increase or better customer service, whatever key area, expertise or experience you had with the past. Now, if you have testimonials in audio-visual format, this is the moment to really drive them in. You play them at this stage. Always listen in for questions, which I find some presenters, they think these questions are interruptive. No. You should allow the questions when they come in, whenever necessary. Because, and if you can afford the time. Because it isn't always good to drive the room to the end and then you propose to them to ask questions after. Let me tell you, some people forget when you started and where you started the presentation. Some people have come in. Some people have left. Some people, they don't know what the idea was about when you started. While others are forming opinions as you go along and they want to ask questions about your service. Please allow those questions. I propose you should allow questions along the way, but don't let these questions drive you off the key things that you want to deliver in this presentation. Let me tell you something. Your ability to take questions and keep the concentration and return to the points you were making before the questions came in is a sign of your maturity, professional competence, and confidence. Don't forget all those. Add to your marks in the room. So that was our point number 2. Check your credentials in regard to the subject matter you're speaking about and the past experience you've had.
Enjoyed this session? We would like to hear from you. Please give your feedback using the Google form attached or email us at info@tomosigroup.ug and visit our website on www.tomosigroup.ug or tune into the Tomosi Business Series on Facebook and YouTube to enjoy more of our weekly training podcasts. You can also visit our offices at Tomosi Business Park, Luzira, Port Bell Road, or call 0789 901 356.